Japan Mobility Show 2023, there was a very special vehicle that stood out for me, and that was the KayoiBako. It's a configurable shipping container that Toyota uses. Well, that's what it's designed after, to eliminate waste and kind of to be a container that you can mold into anything you want. You can put anything you want into this sort of container. Toyota uses the KayoiBako at their factories. They took that philosophy and imprinted it into a mobility vehicle such as a van. And you guys know I'm a sucker for vans. Well, fast forward to this past fall, I was back in Japan for the mobility show, and Toyota showed a whole lineup of these minivans, which can be used for nearly anything your imagination can apply to it. All right, but I didn't make a video on it this year. The only time you saw it in my video is actually when I did the Toyota Century walk around. And you could see some of these high ace concepts, which are just extended versions of the KayoiBako. I love minivans so much, and I didn't want to get my hopes up because I'm like, man, this is too good to be true. When was the last time we got a minivan from Toyota built in Japan? It was the Previa, okay, which was decades ago. Now, what's crazy is that my hopes have just been kindled. Let me show you. In America, KayoiBako has just been trademarked. What does this mean? And no, it's not just the name, okay? It is specifically for International Class 12, which is for vehicles, all right? So it's not just like trademarking the name. No, it's trademarking a vehicle name specifically. And it's not just for merchandise. Sometimes we've seen that before with other trademarks. So this is extraordinarily exciting. Does this mean this vehicle is coming here? No, it doesn't. But let's imagine a world in where it did come here. And let's romanticize about the KayoiBako. So the KayoiBako, it comes in different sizes. Now, 2 years ago, we only knew of one size. It is a bit small for our market, but if you think back, this vehicle reminds me a lot of the Scion XB. The Scion XB was this configurable, cutesy, boxy vehicle that people really love to customize and make it their own. This is the same sort of thing. This is a blank slate vehicle. Now it's battery electric, which a lot of people wouldn't be that excited about, but it allows for insane configuration and insane space on the inside and flexibility. A glass roof. Now, a production version would need to have bigger windows. Now, if it's a commercial version, it doesn't need to have bigger windows, okay? It can have small windows. But production version for passenger van, and again, it could not be imported into the United States as a commercial van due to the chicken tax. It would have to come in, and that's, for example, why we don't get things like the Volkswagen ID Buzz in commercial van status, okay? So this vehicle is a blank slate, and think of this actually. You know, we have this Slate pickup truck, not Toyota, all right, from the Upstart brand with Amazon backing. This is kind of Toyota's Slate, basic, bare bones van that you can make into anything you want, and you could get this in dual motor, all wheel drive if you wanted to. I'm sure, all right, but most of them would be front wheel drive. And then you look at this. Look at this. BB Plus concept. Guys, the BB Plus in Japan, that's what the Scion XB was called here. They called it the BB. Okay, so this is saying, hey, this is the next iteration of the Scion XB or the Toyota BB. Now, in this model, there's only one sliding door. Okay, you have two front doors, but there's only one sliding door for the back. Now, in America, if they were to export it here, it would likely have multiple sliding doors, one on each side. All right, so interior, it's a pretty conceptualized as well. I mean, when I looked at it at the Japan Mobility Show, I'm like, if Toyota were to bring something out like this, it would be insane. Well, again, now my hopes are enkindled because it's been trademarked in the US market, the name of this. Now, the name of this would not go well in America. People could not say KayoiBako. I would say it's even a difficult word for other language speakers too, KayoiBako. Like, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But the exciting thing was, okay, here is, okay, an off-roading version. You can see the wires here to protect the windshield from branches and things like that. You see a canoe. Just really, really romantic, okay? But you also have, you can make it a vehicle you can live out of and camp in. Let's say it's $30,000. Look at, there's a tailgate here and a lift gate. So a tailgate you could sit on, it's very low to the ground. You can make a bed out of this thing. I mean, especially with how, if you don't have a seat all the way up here, and imagine this kind of being the modern Honda Element too. You could remove the seats, which is amazing. Okay, remove the seats, even the front passenger seat, for better usability. Now, it couldn't be sold without those seats in America because it would then be imported as a commercial vehicle and subject to the chicken tax. Now, this was a big surprise for me. Okay, we're going from the standard KayoiBako to the Hi-Ace. Now, the Hi-Ace is one of their, it's in Japan. Think of it as like a Sprinter van. It's a transit van, mainly for people, but it's much bigger and roomier than something like a minivan like the Sienna or the Toyota Alphard. Okay, so they would be expanding the size of this vehicle to multiple segments. So you kind of have like this off-roady camper version here. I know it says Hi-Ace, but if you look right here, it also says KB. And KB stands for KayoiBako. So that's awesome. Now they also have a high roof version. High roof is even better for transporting people, not so much for families, but for adults. So if you're picking up adults in this thing or transporting adults, or if you have a wheelchair access vehicle, that's what this would be for. All right. And then they showed this, which was a surprise for me. It's an autonomous version where the doors would pop out. You would have a lift here or a ramp to get into the vehicle if you have a wheelchair. And you can see the sensors up top. But this sort of window, though, if you look at the windows that go all the way around, this is more like the more likely sort of window configuration you would see if this vehicle were to come here. All right, so there's also this image, which is the newest image of the KayoiBako, supplanting the white images we had earlier. And then we also have, way at the top, this vehicle. Daihatsu would make their own K-car version of the KayoiBako as well. Again, no shot we would ever see a K-car version of this in America, but I just thought it was super cutesy that Toyota is even expanding it to Daihatsu, which is mainly their K-car maker. You know, ideally, Toyota would bring this model in, okay, the full-size Hi-Ace, and this would be a direct competitor against something like the ID Buzz. There's or even the Kia PV5, I think is what it's called. We don't get the PV5. It's not even, I don't think it's been announced for America, the Kia electric minivan, but this thing would be very successful. I mean, I haven't seen the new Highlander EV at the time of this recording, and stay tuned for that reveal. That's where I'm at right now. I'm in California to reveal that vehicle as well as drive the BZ Woodland as well as the CHR. So anyways, I would rather have this than the Highlander EV, but that's me as a minivan lover. Okay, this would be far more usable. You'd have more space. I just want bigger windows here. These windows are way too small and my kids would be getting car sick because they can't see outside. Okay, so windows way too small and they need to be bigger. And then I would love to see a smaller version for America too. Okay, a modern Honda Element, a modern Scion XB. And oh my gosh, it's so adorable. I love the all-terrain tires and the small wheels too. Oh my gosh, so cool. Now, Toyota didn't mention anything about this vehicle, at least with the new press release. They did have an original press release for it in 2023. Toyota was seeking to create a quality base unit. So a base unit, it makes sense now because the KayoiBako, the standard one, is the base unit, and they can make smaller versions of it and bigger versions of it. Okay, so this was the quality base unit in 2023, which has, and it will. There's no way these vehicles are not coming out. There's no way that they're not coming out, at least for Japan. Okay, so we have the base unit, which is the Scion XB replacement, and then you have different scaled, larger and smaller versions of it. And look at this. They want to focus on affordability. Guys, if this little true minivan came to America, let's say it's seated 5 and the smaller version, and seats up to 8 in the bigger version. But the smaller version, let's say, is affordable in the tune of about, again, it would be hit with 15% tariffs. But if they kept the battery pack small, let's say like 50 kilowatt hours. All right, they could sell this thing for $30,000 easily. All right, and I would buy one. I would buy one, absolutely, without hesitation. Now there's an they say an ultra expandable design, allowing to suit different roles. Like we mentioned, now we have a better idea with the larger versions of this vehicle. And they mentioned last mile logistics with this vehicle, which also insinuates not only a more affordable vehicle, but it's due to a smaller battery pack. Last mile, how many miles do you need of range if it's a last mile sort of vehicle? 150. I think 150 to 200 miles of range is enough range for me. Let's look at what SLATE is going to offer. SLATE has two battery pack sizes. One that's 150 miles, again, with, like I said, a 52 kilowatt hour battery. That'd be amazing to see in the KayoiBako. And then a larger 84 kilowatt hour battery with 240 miles. Okay, that's not very efficient for such a large battery pack. But again, a truck's not that aerodynamic either. But this could be Toyota's SLATE moment here with the KayoiBako. For private use, the vehicle can be customized according to individual tastes and preferences, evolving into one-of-a-kind mobility, like the Scion XB was, as well as catering to diverse personal uses and lifestyles. You could live in it. All right, that's if you were to buy this and live in it, it would be cheaper, of course, than paying rent for an apartment or something like that. Okay, now it doesn't have a bathroom, doesn't have running water, doesn't have this, and this, but maybe you could make a way to have it work. All right, using public bathrooms or using a gym to shower, that sort of thing. KayoiBako will also contribute to providing mobility for all, for example, by enabling designs that offer easier access for wheelchair users. Okay, awesome. So you can use it for whatever you so desire. Would you be interested, if priced right, on the smaller KayoiBako? Let's say it comes in at under $30,000, just under $30,000. Let's say it has 150 horsepower. You're gonna get an optional all-wheel drive. Okay, you can get it with a 150 mile battery, or let's say 250 mile battery. And then you could get bigger versions too, which, sign me up. I've always wanted a high ace in America. You can import them, but they're going to be really old, 25 years or older. So this would be a huge moment for Toyota. Look, we know Kia is doing the same sort of thing with their minivans. Okay, they're not as cutesy, which Japan's really good at making cutesy, and Korean manufacturers can make cutesy cars too. Look at the Kia Soul, for example. That's just one example. There's more than that. Okay, if you look at the Youngster, for example, too. This vehicle could really set Toyota apart. And we know minivans are on a surge in America. All forms of minivans. Okay, you look at the Sienna, the Odyssey, the Carnival. They're all crushing it. Massive demand for those vehicles, especially electrified versions. Now the ID Buzz, you might think, Kirk, but there's not going to be that demand for a non-hybrid minivan. Well, priced right, absolutely there will be. I promise you, there would be. Realistically, what are the chances this vehicle would come to America? I would say 25%. That's just gut feeling. It's 100% going to come to Japan in all the forms, from the K-car version from Daihatsu to the high roof version of the Hi-Ace and everything in between. So that's a win. It's 100% going to come to the Japanese market. And the fact that they advertised it as a BB, which we got the BB as the Scion XB, that gives me hope and excitement as well. And would it be called the KayoiBako if it came to the United States? And the answer is, I highly, highly doubt it. This, though, is them kind of protecting their intellectual properties. And the fact that they're trademarking it is definitely a good sign for its availability in America. But again, I don't want to get my hopes up, because this vehicle, well, it's exactly what I would want to replace my old Prius, or to replace my Sienna even. All right, so it is what it is, but I got to sign out there. I don't want to hype this thing to the moon and back. All right, and I know most people are not going to be that excited about it, but for me, it's all I want. It's all I want is a really, really affordable and customizable lineup of vans. That sounds like heaven to me as a minivan lover. And the new Toyota CEO that's replacing Koji Sato, Kenta Ken Tacone is a minivan lover. That gives me also, maybe that increases it an extra 5%. So maybe there's a 30% chance this van comes to America. I can hope and dream. And it's almost like the Land Cruiser FJ. It would be incredible if it came here. The demand would be insane for that little vehicle, that little Land Cruiser. But in reality, the chances are still not good. I'm gonna shut it down there. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the comments. Peace.